Hello, today I'm going to share with you how I support myself living in France. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Patricia Brooks and I am an American living in the south of France and have been for close to 7 years. And on this channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad, and how to find the confidence and courage to live the kind of life that you know that you are meant to live, but may be afraid to. And today I'm going to talk about how I support myself living in France, because it's a question I get quite often. And in doing that, I'm going to share my story because I didn't start out working here in France and I transitioned into my own business. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but then get down to the nitty gritty of what it is I do, what I do as a life coach, because you might not really be clear on what that is, and if I can really live off of what I earn as a life coach. All right, so let's dig in. Back in 2018, I decided it was time for me to leave my project management job and move to the south of France. Now, I'd been working in project management for close to 20 years. In that last job, close to or over 5 years. And I wouldn't say burnout, but I was ready for a change. And so I did it. I found that confidence and courage to leave a good paying job and to move to France without a job and to live off of my savings for close to 2.5 years. And that was scary. But it was what I needed to do, because that gave me time to decompress from, 20 years of project management work that was starting to be a little bit too much for me. It gave me space and time to explore France and learn French. I went to French school, to learn French. And I started my podcast in that first year. I traveled in France and in Europe. And I really expanded my horizons. I really got to see what I was capable of, right? It really stretched me. And so it has been a great personal development program. So that was that. I took the sabbatical. I wasn't working. At the end of my first year, I started to think, I need to figure out what I'm going to do professionally so that I can live, because I won't be able to live off of my savings forever. And I even went down the path of looking into what it would take for me to get the profession libéral visa, the visa that I'm currently on now. And I chickened out because I'd only been in France 1 year. I knew that if I was going to coach people, I wanted to coach people to make a move to a foreign country. But it had been just a year. And I didn't feel like I was confident enough to help other people do the same thing, because who knew if I'd be able to make it another year or another year. And so I chickened out and I went for the visitor visa again, the non-working visa. And that was fine because I had enough savings to live off of for another year. And that's what I did. But at the end of year 2, I was like, Patricia, you've got this coach training certification. Back in 2015, I went to IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, and got certified. So I had the certification. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew who I wanted to coach. And it was just a matter of my going for this visa that I was afraid to go for. But I did. And they granted it to me. Now, I did not have a business already stood up. I didn't have any paying clients. But, with my business plan, it must have been good enough. And all the other documents I submitted, they granted me this professional libéral visa. So I could start my business here in France. That was 3 years ago tomorrow. And it was scary because I had to figure out how to go from zero to the French minimum wage in a year's time. And that would take a lot of effort. I was fortunate enough to have enrolled in a business course, a business coaching course, to help me to figure out the structure of my business and how to attract clients and all those things that might have taken me a really long time to figure out. And so that kind of gave me a shortcut. So I was so glad that I invested in that. And at the end of my first year, I had to apply for my visa all over again. And one of the requirements was to have earned the French minimum wage, which is called the SMIC, S-M-I-C. And, I fell a little bit short of making the SMIC, but I had done pretty well in my first year. I was nervous to go into my visa appointment not having completely met that qualification, but I went in anyway because that's all I could do. And fortunately, they recognized that I was making really good progress for having only been in business for 1 year. And I also was able to show that I would be able to support myself again for another year, along with my income that I was making now. And so they granted me my Profession Liberale visa for 4 years. And so that gave me a little bit of space to breathe. And in my second year, I did even better than I did in my first year. And now, coming up to the end of my third year, I have done even better. So the question is that I get, and often it's from somebody that I'm considering dating or who's considering dating me, is, oh yeah, but can you support yourself as a life coach? Can you make enough money so that you can live? The answer is absolutely. It's not easy. It takes a lot of effort. It takes some planning, consistency, persistency, resilience. There's so many things that go into that, but I am living proof that it's possible. So that is how I earn my living here in France as a life coach, helping people who are ready to start the next chapter of their lives living in a foreign country. And what I do as a life coach is I help them with their mindset. I help them to move through the blocks that have kept them from moving abroad for years in some instances. I help them to move through those blocks, create a plan, work that plan, and finally make that move abroad. So that is what I do. Now, you might be saying, I still don't know what you mean when you say life coach or life coaching. How is that different from a therapist? How is that different from a mentor? Well, I'm going to break it down for you right now. So a therapist is somebody who is a mental health professional who is licensed in the state that they are licensed in. And they work with people who are struggling with mental illness, be it clinical depression, be it anxiety, be it post-traumatic stress disorder, or whatever mental illness they are facing. And their approach is to look at what the root causes of that mental illness are. And they help their patients to delve into their past to understand what those things are, right? To get some clarity on that. And a lot of the work they do focuses on the past. Now, I, as a life coach, am certified. Not all life coaches are, but I am certified. And what life coaches do is they work with people who are at a place where they're ready to move their lives forward, right? So what I do is I focus on where they are currently and what it is they're hoping to accomplish in the future. And so the focus is the present and looking forward to the future. Okay. So those are big differences. And I will say that I have worked with people who were currently in therapy. And sometimes that works really nicely because the therapist has a hold on the root causes, and I'm working from the current state and moving forward. Now, so those are the differences between a therapist and a life coach. Now, what is the difference between a life coach and a mentor? Well, really, the main difference is that a mentor is somebody who's actually done the thing that you are going for, the thing that you want to accomplish. Sometimes a coach has done the thing you want to do, but not always. And so for me, I offer several different ways that you can work with me. One of them is my group coaching and mentoring program called the Carefree Expat Incubator Program. It's for single women who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives, right? And it is a group coaching. It has online lessons, and it has a private Facebook group. We meet once a year in person. Those are the elements of that program. And it's coaching and mentoring. And it's coaching and mentoring because what I do is when I coach somebody is I don't necessarily say, oh, well, this is how I moved to France and this is how you should move to France. Whereas somebody who's a mentor, that's their approach. They're like, this is the way I did it. So follow this route, the things that I did, and you can get there too. Whereas a coach looks to the person, asks them clarifying questions and empowering questions to help them to get to the things that are most important for them to have and how they want to experience the journey of getting to where they want to be. So that's what I do 80% of the time that I'm working with people. That other 20% is mentoring. And the mentoring really is not, oh, this is how you should do it, but more of, oh, well, when I moved abroad, this is how I did it, right? It's more of informational that they can latch on and say, oh, that's a good idea. I think I want to do it that way. Or they can say, okay, that's nice information. For me, I think this route would be more appropriate, right? Or we can get to that together. So that's the difference between coaching and mentoring. That's the difference between coaching and therapy. So hopefully you have some clarity on this. I thought it would be helpful because my mom, when I became a project manager, she asked me, what does a project manager do? I know what projects are and I know what managers are, but what exactly do you do as a project manager? And I think that if she were still living, she would have asked the question, well, as a life coach, what do you do? And so that's why I thought it would be helpful to share. Okay. Where are you in your move abroad process? Could you use help and support in getting clarity on what your next steps are, in reducing overwhelm and figuring out the right path for you? Well, if that is the case, then I would love to have a conversation with you. And you can click the link for a complimentary discovery call. Now, that's one way that I work with people is that discovery call. It's complimentary. And sometimes people get on a call and they have an aha and they're good. Sometimes they get on a call and they're like, they have an aha and they're like, and I would like your support. And the calls can go either way. The other thing that I offer is one-on-one coaching. So maybe you don't qualify for the group coaching program, or maybe, your issues are a little bit different, then you can work with me one-on-one. And then a third way that you can work with me is through booking an information session. Now, this is a paid session where you can pick my brain. I have made a move abroad and I have learned a lot of interesting things, a lot of things that could help you and give you some shortcuts in making your move abroad too. And if that's the case, you can schedule an information session. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description as well. Now, the fourth way that you can work with me is workshops. Dr. Christopher Wells and I are putting on our very first in-person workshop in Valencia, Spain on October 13th of 2024. It's called From Vision to Victory, The Essentials to Become a Happy and Healthy Expat. And the title sums it up. If you're interested in that, I'm going to put a link to that in the description as well, so you can check it out. If you're going to be in the area, in Europe, perhaps, you can come on over and join us for that. We would love to see you there. Know that the time frame is getting tight, but still want to put that out there in case you are able to make it. All right. So that's who I am. That's what I do. That's how I help people. That's how I support myself living in France. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.